Welcome to Scoop du Jour, Joy Taylor. I'm so pumped to have you, a fellow South Floridian, but more than that, a host and personality. Right now, you are on Speak on FS1. You've been so many places. I can't wait to talk about all of your career stops. You are a philanthropist, an advocate, and so many things. We will jump into all of them, but I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Let's talk through all of the things that you are and that you've done. I think your career journey is so fascinating because it started, like I said, in South Florida, on the radio, and you've worked your way to this amazing space. So kind of take us through the trajectory and where you've been and where you've landed.
So, I mean, I've done a lot of things, been a lot of places, but to kind of lay it out, I guess I started in South Florida, as you mentioned, at Barry University and in South Florida radio, interning at WQAM, 560 QAM on the Joe Rose Morning Show. That was my first internship when I was at Barry University studying broadcast journalism. And I also started working on the student radio station at Barry, just hosting a student radio show there. I always knew I wanted to get into the personality side of the business. And at that time, a million years ago, but it was a long time ago. And it was very different then. It wasn't, there weren't podcasts, there weren't shows like this. There wasn't access to really create your own platform. And particularly on the personality side, if you wanted a space to do that, radio was the best way to be able to talk. And I didn't really want to be a reporter or a traditional anchor. And so I was really drawn to radio early in my career because of that, because it was the early stages of YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. Instagram was still like, you could only post pictures and they had to have one of the weird filters and frames on it. I don't even know if it was like the end of college. I'd have to look. But anyway, it was a long time ago. So that's why I wanted to get into the radio side. And it actually really benefited me throughout my career because I started as, obviously an intern, getting coffee and answering phones and, printing stuff. But I also had the opportunity to learn how to do a show. My second internship was with DJ Laz when he was doing the morning show at Power 96 in Miami. And I basically learned every part of putting together a show and being a producer, booking guests, coming up with, show ideas, doing what social media we had at the time, going to events, putting together stuff for sales. Like I learned really how to put together a show from both the sports side and the entertainment side. And now, those two entities really mix a lot more now than they ever have before. So I had a really great background and start in college with my internships and getting to work with both Joe and DJ Laz while I was still in school. And then I eventually got my first job at QAM as a part-time producer. I worked there for a while, then worked at 790 The Ticket, obviously, as a producer, and then eventually the host with Zaslow and with Jonathan Zaslow for the Zaslow and Joy show. I also worked at CBS Sports and freelanced and wrote and covered high school sports and youth sports and, whatever else anyone would let me do while I was in South Florida. And then 7 years ago, I came to Fox, came to FS1 and to Los Angeles, and have gone through a bunch of different jobs and renditions of my career out here as well. Obviously, starting on Undisputed, I did Fox Sports Radio for a little while. At my start out here with FS1, I had a digital show, had a Facebook Live show, had my podcast for several years. Did sidelines for the NFL, did sidelines for the Big Three, and did play-by-play with Amazon Prime for Thursday Night Football. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some other stuff as well. I had my own show last year with Fox Sports Radio on the weekends. And also obviously worked on The Herd for 3 years before my show that I host now, Speak, which is weekdays, 4:30 Eastern on FS1. So that's kind of like the condensed version of my resume, leaving out a bunch of other things. But It's been a pretty wild journey. I mean, I started in 2007, so I'm losing math here, but I've been in the business for quite a while, and I've had a lot of different um, ups and downs and crazy experiences and great experiences. But I feel very, very blessed to be able to work with the guys in the show now and, be able to do what we do every day, which is what I wanted to do, which was give my opinion.
Okay, that's what I picked up on that you said, because you worked with and work with people with a lot of opinions, but you mentioned you didn't want to be a reporter just kind of saying what was going on. You had your own take. So kind of talk to me about just being able to have that. Where did that kind of confidence come from? Where did you know, when did you know that you wanted to be a personality versus an anchor reporter, kind of the traditional sports path that I took, or that so many people, especially women, take in sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think because I've always looked at being a journalist or a reporter as a very specific job, and it's a job that I hold in very high regard. When people call me a journalist, I'm like, I'm not really a journalist because I don't I don't want my the reason I push back on it is because what I'm saying is my opinion. And
Yeah.
I think it's very dangerous when people confuse someone's opinion with facts. Now, my opinion is based off of facts, but I don't my opinion is not the law. It's not the facts, it's not the source. It is me reacting to what the work that other people have done or what I have watched happen. And I think there's a very big distinction between those two jobs, and it's particularly in sports. I mean, obviously we're not saving lives or anything, but there's the news environment that we live in today. I think it's very dangerous that people don't know the difference between, okay, this is just someone's opinion and this is the fact, and they're just reacting to what happens, and don't skip that other step. So I never wanted the responsibility of having to get the story,
Mm.
and I consider journalists to be an essential part of the news process, and it's a big responsibility to be able to give the news in the most unbiased way possible, which I think is very necessary to like a functioning society. So climbing off the soapbox there, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is a very big sports town, as people know. And I didn't. I grew up around women who were very opinionated about sports. My grandmother and my aunts and my mother are like very big hardcore sports fans, and they argue about it and they share their opinions and they watch all the games, and that's what they do. And so it's never been weird to me to be a woman who has an opinion, and particularly a woman who has an opinion about sports. And I played sports growing up, and I come from a very vocal family. So I've always had, I think, the desire to give my opinion. And then the education that I got in the business really helped me find my voice. And, the reps that I had gave me the confidence to be able to share it.
So going off of that, confidence is a big part of it, because when you're kind of the journalist, people come for you all the time, right? Oh, you messed up this score, you messed up this stat, whatever. But when you have an opinion, people come for you big time. And I love that you are not ever afraid to be like, if you don't really like my take, I mean, it's my take. Or you don't fight back, but you speak up, kind of like your show is. Talk to me about that confidence, and does that come from your family or just years of practice?
I think it comes from finding your voice. I wasn't always as confident in what I was able to do or say. Through repetition, through your experiences, having an opinion about anything that you know about is not really difficult to do. I mean, that's what we do. We watch something, we experience something, and then we form our opinion. But articulating that opinion is something different.
Totally.
And particularly when you're doing it live on television or live on the radio, you can have this idea like, I feel like this happened, but how do I explain that, this call was the wrong call for 3rd and 1 at this point in the game? how do I say more than just that was the wrong call or I don't like that call? And that is through preparation. So whatever kind of show you do, I mean, for this show, you prepared to do this interview. You knew things about me. Maybe you looked something up or, checked my social or whatever. You do prep. Preparation is the biggest part of our business. If you don't prepare, you will fail. It's like a test. Essentially, we do an oral exam every single day for an hour and a half on TV and we're presenting and that's what it is. So if you don't prepare, you're going to say things that don't make sense. You're not going to really have a strong opinion and you're not really going to be backing any of it up with real facts or numbers or experiences or examples. And that's really learning how to prepare is very important. And different shows require different preparation. You're
Sure.
not going to prep to do play by play the same way that you're going to prep to do Undisputed, or the same way you'll prep to do Her, or the same way you'll prep to do my show or podcast or whatever. So that's the key, I think, to really feeling confident is, being on TV or, talking like that. You get better at that the more you do it. But with opinion, I think it's really important to not only study the people in the business who do it the best and see what they do, which obviously I've had the opportunity to work with, some of the best opinionists in the business, but also finding your voice and being authentic to you is very important because I don't think that you can fool audiences. And it's also exhausting. Like I don't want to play a character, I want to
Yeah.
be myself and let my experiences shape my opinion. And like you said, you don't have to like my opinion. I don't care. It's not. I'm not giving it to you to like. I'm giving it to you to discuss, and that's what it is. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong, and sometimes it's just my opinion, and it isn't a matter of right or wrong. It's just what I think about the situation. But in anything in life, you're going to have people that disagree with you. So I mean, I don't if you try and please everyone, it's gonna be a very boring show. So, I'm not trying to do anything but give my authentic opinion, but you can't be sensitive to the idea that people are going to disagree with you.
What about when 7 years ago, you get this call, you'd been doing radio and in a big market, I mean, with a large audience, but then you get a call from Fox. I mean, that has to be life-changing, as cliche as it is. What was that moment like when you were like, I get to go to LA and do this. I get to work with, like, these big time people.
It was pretty crazy. I mean, I think when you get in the business, you have these lofty goals and ideas of things you wanna do, and sometimes, like, in the back of your mind, you're like, "Is that ever really gonna happen?" Like, "I think I'm good enough, and this is certainly what I wanna do and what I aspire to do." And it's also while it was a huge opportunity, I had never spent really any time in LA, and
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone in the city, and I was moving from the East Coast where I'd lived my entire life to the West Coast, which is very far. I
Yeah.
mean, even now, I go to see my family a lot, but it's a 5-hour flight. It's not an easy, trip to get back and forth, so I was really changing my whole life and taking this giant step in my career as well. So it was a big personal change and professional change. But there was a moment when I was auditioning for Fox because we work on the Fox studio a lot. And I hadn't spent a lot of time in LA. So maybe for people who live in LA, this isn't such a big deal. But I'm used to driving up to the radio station every morning.
Right.
And now I'm pulling onto the Fox studio movie lot, like to audition. And that was the first moment that I was like, "Oh, okay, this is
A big deal.
this is a little different. Like this is big time." And it's still very special to be able to do that every day. I don't take that for granted. It is like very grand for a reason, and the entrance to the lot, and it's a pretty crazy experience. It's something I definitely never take for granted.
That's so cool. I think I knew that, but, like, when you know those things and you put them in the back of your head, you're like, "Oh, yeah, they film those big time shows and studio lots," but then you saying it reminded me of, like, "Oh, they really do that."
Well,
Um,
some every studio is different.
yeah.
So, like the ESPN studios out here, they do like in their big studios
Mm,
down at, by Staples. And some, they're all going to be in studios, obviously. But
yeah.
um
Yours is like near movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they're shooting shows in sound stages across the lot, like a couple feet away. So it is really like a good reminder every day.
Take us through your day to day.
So it's changed a lot. Every show is very different. This one is really unique because it's in the afternoon, and I've done mornings for most of my career.
Right.
So now my whole life schedule is different. Like I can wake up in the morning and go to the gym, and then I do my prep with my producer after I work out, and then I come in and do hair and makeup. We have another meeting just to restack the show, and then we do the show from 1:30 to 3. It's obviously a little more complicated than that, but COVID has obviously changed a lot for the business. And pre-COVID, I think my schedule would be very different. Now that we
Mm.
know how much prep we can do not in
At
person
home.
together, it's changed a lot of people's schedules and how people can get things done too. Before I probably would have had to come in earlier,
Mhm.
be on the lot for much longer. I would have to, get up earlier to work out and all these different things. But we've really kept some of the things that we had to change doing the show during COVID for the prep and schedule for the shows now. So it's in a lot of ways more efficient now than we were
Oh,
doing
yeah.
it before. So
Did you have a preference or do you have a preference of mornings and afternoons? I think for those who are unfamiliar, there's definitely like a different schedule. Like, I mean, working in sports and local news, like I would go in at 2 p.m. and I think people think that's crazy, but like, right, you have a whole day ahead of you. But then in the mornings, you have your whole afternoon. So it's definitely different ways of looking at it. But did you have a preference?
I don't. I mean, early mornings, definitely not. I loved my schedule on the herd because I would come in at 7
Oh, that's good.
and be done at noon. So I'd have,
Good.
essentially the whole day. And then for on weekends, like particularly on Fridays, if I wanted to fly out, to the East Coast, I could still, get on a flight and get in on Friday night. But like for during the week, this schedule, being able to get up in the morning, like go work out, get anything I need to get done in the morning before coming in and still being done by 3 is also a great schedule.
Yeah.
Waking up at 3:20 in the morning is a little bit different.
Was that the time you had to do for Undisputed?
Yeah, so I'd have to come in at 4 in the morning, and we would be done at 9, but,
Yeah.
it's 4 in the morning, so
Right.
it's you just have to be a machine, like, basically Sunday night through Friday morning.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't drink any alcohol during the week. I was in bed at 9 PM. Like, if somebody was like, "Oh, like, let's go to dinner," like, "Cool, like, 5:30?" I'm
Yeah.
like, What are you, a grandmother?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna be out with you past 8 o'clock. Like, I'm gonna be at home in my bed, like, not getting ready for bed, in my bed at 9 PM.
Yeah.
None of you are that important. I'm sorry." Like, it's just because it was also, sorry, I have, like, a fuzzy on my lip. Um, it was also too big of a show, like,
Uh-huh.
we had so much going on. We had, cameras up high, and we had the steady cam walking around the whole set, and it have to be engaged for 2.5 hours, and,
Mhm.
like, it just was not a situation where you could be in any
Off.
way inhibited or off. So, it was just I just had to be very focused and disciplined. Um, so I don't prefer that that early. But it was a great experience, and it was really good for teaching me how to be in a routine for the show.
So you mentioned flying out to see your family, and you've told us your family is very into sports, but your last name kind of says it. We didn't really say that you have a pretty well known brother, but I mean you've made a quite the name for yourself, obviously. But your brother is a Pro Football Hall of Famer, Jason Taylor, and you grew up playing sports. Your family did kind of talk to us about being in a family like that.
I mean, it's definitely a blessing to be in this business and have a sports family.
Yes.
I don't, it would be very difficult to want to talk about sports every day or be as heavily involved in sports if my family wasn't into sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. Like maybe I wouldn't have been into sports at such a young age if my family
Yeah.
wasn't into sports. But yeah, I mean, we've obviously been able to share some pretty amazing experiences. Both my nephews play Division 1 football now also. So, it's just, continuing on as a generational thing. But yeah, I mean, it's great. My younger brother played college football as well. So it's definitely, it's a part of who we are. My mom is a big Cowboys fan. That part she didn't pass on, but
You're
like I
Dolphins,
said,
right? I mean, you root for the Dolphins?
yes. Well, I do both. I kind of bandwagon both teams because I grew up as a Steelers fan, so I always, root
Okay,
for the
yes,
Steelers,
Pittsburgh.
but I would say, I have blood in the game for the
Yeah.
Dolphins, so. And
And
I
then
also covered the Dolphins obviously when I worked in South Florida for many years, so um I had friends who worked for the organization and obviously Jason being there as well.
and he is now with Miami.
He's with the Hurricanes. Yes, he was a coaching analyst for the Hurricanes on Cristobal's staff this year. Yeah.
And he was at my alma mater. I went to St. Thomas,
Oh, you would say Thomas.
which is where your nephews went or one went?
Yeah,
Because
they both went to St. Thomas Aquinas, and he was there for 4 years, I think.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Um, I always keep up with St. Thomas and my family does because I went there still. And so one of your nephews had like the like winning conversion over LSU, over Bama for LSU, right?
Yeah, Mason is a true freshman tight end
Yeah,
for LSU. So he had his first season there
that's
and
cool.
he got a lot of playing time. And yes, he got the game winning conversion, which was I was here in LA for it and was at a sports bar because the Canes were playing, Arizona, who Isaiah plays for, was playing,
Oh,
and
nice.
Mason was playing all the same time. So I was like, all right, I guess I have to go to a bar. Where else am I going to get all these
Yeah.
screens on? So I was hysterical.
Oh, that's so
It was,
cool.
but he's a great kid. They both are really hard workers and like love football. So it was a really special moment. And I know my brother was on the sideline coaching when it happened because the game was going on.
Oh,
So it was he talked about it like being like a really emotional moment, but being able to watch it afterwards for him was,
yeah.
was really cool. But yeah, I got to see it live and I lost my mind.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, it's cool too, like just to obviously be able to like watch your like have weekends now too. Like you said, you worked so many weekends and then you get to have the weekends off to see your family and to travel home. And one of the things that I think is really cool, you mentioned I do my research and on social, and I do this for all my guests. You have a really big and cool girl gang. And I think that's something really special. It's something I hold dear to my heart because my hometown friends are the best of them. Um, how do you manage those friendships from you're kind of coast to coast now, but it's important, I imagine. So kind of talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have a pretty big network of girlfriends and a really close group of girlfriends, and we make a really intentional effort to get together several times throughout the year. Obviously, I'm in Miami a lot, so I get to, see them when I'm there to visit my family, but also my one of my closest friends, MJ Acosta, lives here in
Oh,
LA, so we're very lucky to be in the same city together. We got to California at the same time because she left South Florida for San Diego, and so we've been on the West Coast together for about 7 years and now been in LA together for a few years, so we have each other also. It's female relationships are very important to me, particularly ones that are in the business, because it's a very unique business. And if you're not in it, it's not that you can't understand it, but any business that you're in is going to have a different level of understanding. If you're a nurse, if you are you work in law, like you're going to have experiences that people who aren't in that field are not going to understand. And so we've really been able to stay very close and it's amazing to have a support system like that of not just, strong, accomplished women, but women who really understand what you're going through and are not working against you or trying to be or are jealous of any kind of success that you have, but genuinely want you to win and are as happy for you when you win as you are. And I think one of the big misconceptions about women in the business is that we're all very catty and petty and don't support each other and don't get along, and it's very like vicious and cat fights, and it's just not accurate.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that was the experience for another generation, but I'm 36. Yeah, I'm sort of in that category of people in the business who got into it really before social media took it over. Facebook started my freshman year of college. So I'm like the true millennial, you know. And so we've really come up in a space where we had to rely on each other.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have female mentors. A lot of my mentors in the business, almost all, were men. And they were great to me and great for me, but it's different when you can speak to a woman about your experiences. And so, my friendships to me are very, very important. They're very special to me. I would have lost my mind many times without my girl group and girl groups. And I just like also not purposefully, but I do think it's important to show women working together and supporting each other and letting that be the narrative rather than enforcing that we all hate each other and don't support each other. Obviously, especially when you're young and you haven't really found your voice and haven't really found your place, I'm not going to sit here and act like I was always perfect with this. But I think once you really get into your true womanhood and you really understand life and what matters and what doesn't and how people win, it's so important to encourage other people and to not try and stand in the way of their success because there is enough room for everyone. I know it's very cliche, but there just is. Like someone else's success is not taking away from yours. It just means this wasn't meant for you, and
Mhm.
it always ends up being the right thing. If that's what you were really truly meant to do, it will come to you. That's just how it works. There's been opportunities that I thought were, just a dream that didn't come to pass, and I'm like, wow, thank God I
Yeah.
didn't take that. Thank God that didn't end up actually happening because it would have blocked me from all of this other stuff. So I think that is a important mentality. I think it's important to encourage that, to teach that, to show that, and it's authentic. I mean, these are people that I talk to all day every day, and I'm sure you have group chats that are going off at, all times of the day as well. But I think it's important, and, uh, we're all we got. So,
I hope people listening can like picture exactly like the groups you're talking about because I'm like, oh yeah, you have your I my work friends from my first job and second job and then my best, you know what I mean? Like we have these group, like you said, in groups. And I always also I think too as we get older, oh, I have enough friends. Like I like don't subscribe to that mentality. I think, there's your circle can get smaller, but I'm never like, oh, I don't need this other woman in my life or even this other friend, whatever he or she may be. Because I think there's always space. And I think it's just like you said, I hope people are picturing those people because you need them. And you talked about empowering other people, which is what you're doing with your foundation. Will you talk to us a little bit about that and how it came to be?
so I did a lot of charity work in South Florida, a lot with my brother, also with women in distress, and I would, host a lot of things, Art Broward, a lot of, just I enjoy being able to volunteer and host events and give back. And when I came to LA, I really wanted to try and find a space to do that out here because obviously my network in Miami is very different than in this city. So I also was kind of doing sort of isolated work with different groups. So I really wanted to find a way to streamline all of it and be able to, deliver a message. And people would always be like, oh, like, how can I help? Or like, I see you're working with this group, like, can I donate? So that's why I put together the foundation. And I also wanted to be able to give back to students. So that's why I started the scholarship at Barry University as well, which we launched last year. So yeah, so the foundation works with domestic violence awareness and survivors, homelessness, and youth empowerment. And we partnered with some pretty amazing groups and do work to just support them, help them with fundraising, help them with events, help them with awareness and advocacy. And yeah, it's been great. It's gotten a great response. We've put together some pretty awesome events, and yeah, it's called the Joy Taylor Foundation.
Yes, I was gonna say, yeah, we have to say like the whole name, so everyone knows what to do, and where to go. Okay, some fun questions, some rapid fire. What's like the coolest or best interview you've had, or like coolest person you've gotten to interact with when you got to do like reporting, sideline reporting? Coolest person you've had on your show? Coolest person you met?
Um, it's really tough because we had some pretty amazing guests in studio. I will say like one I was very, very excited about was Allen Iverson because I was a huge Allen Iverson fan growing up, and I played basketball from like fifth grade all through high school. And I at one point I was like, I am Allen Iverson. Like I would get straight
Hi,
back
yeah.
braids and have my my elbow bands and the whole thing. So Allen Iverson was really cool. I was doing the Big Three league sidelines and got the chance to interview AI, and he was great.
That's really cool. What's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job is the ability to really be creative. There's a whole lot of I guess basically like a clean slate, a clean palette to work with every day, even if you're doing the same story, because we do a daily show. So, we might talk about the same story day in and day out. You really can create an entertaining product in new ways, and you don't do the same show every day. So
Mhm.
for me, that's what keeps it like very exciting is I'm doing something different today. It's the same show, it's the same routine, it's the same place for hair and makeup, it's the same schedule, but on air, it's a totally new show every single day, and that's really fun.
Okay, so you have to talk to us about like hair and makeup because that's like a when you get to like the level you're at, it's kind of a cool and big deal. They get your hair and makeup done. So, what is like a tip or a trick that you've learned from your hair and makeup gals or guys that you've implemented when you do your own? Like, what's like something they've taught you?
So I can do my own makeup, but not like they do. So uh, they're like the best professionals in
Yeah.
the business. Are We have union hair and makeup. So if you know anything about LA or like the Hollywood level of that, like it's not an easy thing to do. Like you have to get a union card and you have to work so many union jobs before you qualify for it. And it's like, so these are professionals
Yeah.
we're working with. And doing studio makeup, like I have my makeup on from the show this morning.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't budged.
No,
For
because they're
anyone
the
like listen,
best.
I
And
hope
they'll
everyone watches instead of listens because they have to see it.
I mean, like, yeah, like if I did my own makeup, it would not look like this. It would look competent, but it's not gonna look like this. Um, I would say the one thing I wish I could learn how to do my eyes how they do it, because I feel like my eyes, I'm like, it doesn't matter what palette I buy, my eyes look exactly the same every single time. I'm like, are my brushes dirty? I don't understand it. I
Yeah. What are they
cannot
doing?
do eyeshadow. It just looks the same every single time. I would say the one thing I've learned from both hair and makeup is hair and makeup that you do for outside, or like to go to the club or to dinner or whatever, and the stuff that you do on set is very different.
Oh yeah.
Like the studio makeup has to look a certain way. It can't, like, it's just going to be very obvious that you're doing like pageant glam, which looks incredible at a pageant or in photo shoots, but on set, I would look crazy.
Right.
So, like, there's just very different types of makeup. And when we were obviously not in studio for several months during COVID, I had to like really talk to them like, okay, like
What do I do?
how do you do this? Like, what is the technique? But they're really like the best. They're so good, and we work together. Our hair and makeup crews, but I've been with them for 6.5 years now with the same crew. So which is such a luxury and so nice because it's not I am not doing a runway show, like this is a part of the process
Yeah,
of doing the show. Like the men get hair and makeup too. Obviously different, but they also go to hair and makeup. So this
right.
is this is a part of the TV aesthetic is hair and makeup. So it's a part of our job because we're working on a visual medium. So to not have to stress about it and not have to do it yourself and be able to continue prepping for the show and doing calls and reading articles and whatever while you're getting your hair and makeup done because you don't even have to think about like
Yes.
they know what products to use, they know what you like, what you don't like, they know what like they just know what they're doing. It's such a big stress relief. And anyone who works in the business knows like that's just
The
it
time
is a
saver,
huge
like, just
deal.
being able to arrive and them do it too, I bet. And then do
Oh,
you
yeah, I look
style
like a
yourself?
gremlin when I roll up to work. I'm like, I don't do anything. I put, like,
No
some
doubt.
moisturizer on. I'm like, "Fix me."
Do you style yourself?
No, so we also have wardrobe,
Oh,
which is
amazing.
amazing. I do choose what we keep. Like, they'll go and get
Oh,
a big
cool.
haul of clothes, and we'll do, fittings. So I'll try on, 40 different outfits or whatever, and we'll have our lovely seamstress there. And if I'm not really feeling it, then we won't keep it, but we'll, keep what makes sense for the show. If it needs to be altered, it gets sent out. And then they have a wardrobe department there and they keep essentially like a closet for each talent.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and then they'll pull, a week's worth, or they'll pull something for the day, steam it, have it in the room, and then they keep track so that we won't wear the same outfit, like within 2 weeks or whatever. So they're incredible. So
Do you
we're
get to keep anything?
very spoiled. No, they keep everything at work.
Oh,
Like it's
it belongs there.
mine, but like it stays at work. Yeah.
Got it, got it, got it. Oh, that's like another amazing thing that you don't have to worry about. And you can have like your separate like, spend your time, energy, and money on fun clothes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nice.
and it's nice, like, not having to worry about what you're wearing that day. It
Yeah.
just it just eliminates
You can
I'm
focus on
I'm
the job.
yes, you focus on the job
Yeah.
because these are things you need for the job, but they're
Yeah.
not if you're spending time worrying about what you're gonna wear or what your hair and makeup looks like or doing it yourself, that just takes energy and time away from doing the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, every place doesn't have, you know, the budgets for that, but it does make a huge difference in what you're doing. Because I'm a very Steve Jobs-esque type of person. Like, I like to park in the same parking lot, parking spot every day, like leave at the same time. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day. Like, I'm just like a very routine person. And in trying to eliminate extra choices that don't require creativity so that I can save all of that for the show. So if every day I'm like, I don't know, do I want avocado toast today or an eggs benedict or maybe I'm in the mood for oatmeal, like it's just like extra energy you're spending on something that just I get okay, it's spinach and eggs every day. Like that's what I'm
Okay,
eating.
yeah. So you mentioned breakfast. Tell us your morning routine.
I do a coffee that I make here at the house. I do once a week splurge on a Starbucks.
Okay.
Not that I'm, like, anti-Starbucks or anti-Dunkin' or anything, like, I know
Yeah.
it's not that serious. I just don't like
Like
having to
once a week.
make an extra trip. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, if I'm, like, walking past it after I go to the gym or something, like, I'll pick one up, but, usually I just make one here, and then I make myself breakfast. I'll make spinach and eggs or, if I have turkey bacon, I'll toss that in there, but I eat eggs every single day.
Yes.
Like, I cannot every day, 7 days a week, every single day I eat eggs. It is the perfect food. I would lose my mind if I had to stop eating
Well,
eggs,
and
so
like now they're like hard to get your hands on.
I
So
know, I
hopefully you
bought 2
stocked up.
dozen the other day, so I was like, "Eat them." I have a problem. Like,
Mhm.
I don't have an addictive personality, but I love eggs. I literally eat eggs every morning.
I mean, could be worse choices.
I guess I don't know. I don't care. I need them.
No, I
They've
mean,
like
it's a
become
healthy,
such a
good
part of
thing.
my life. I'm like, this is my routine.
Okay, so eggs, what do you have a workout of choice? Or you'll
So
like
I've
switch
been
it up?
doing a lot of Pilates lately, which
Mm,
I really love. I fought Pilates for a long time because of all the equipment and the such,
mhm.
but I've gotten into it lately and I really like it. So I've been crushing a lot of Pilates. I'm not a big like sweater. That
Yeah,
stuff's behind me. I can't do like the hit workouts or like the heavy lifting. I'll mix in a boxing class once a week
okay.
just to push myself a little bit, but I don't want to be dying sore or pouring sweat or just like I'm not trying to do all that. I'm gonna do a little elliptical for some cardio and do Pilates and that's all I got in me anymore.
Nice. And so you'll wake up, I'll do all of this before you go in.
Yeah,
And yes,
yeah.
good call.
It
What
was
else
it
do you
was
like to
always
do?
harder for me to go to the gym in the afternoon after the
Oh,
show
yeah.
because you're just you know this, like, when you're done talking for the day, it is like,
Yes.
you know,
Just
and then you have to get energy to go to the gym, and that would be difficult for me, so I like getting it done in the morning.
and your makeup's done, so you can't mess it up.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, you have to, do it while it's not done. What else do you like to do outside of work?
I mean, I'm like a pretty outside person. I like to do a long dinner. I can't really rage the way that I used to,
Mm,
which is a good thing, I suppose. But LA is not really like a big party city.
okay.
Well, at least not once you get to a certain age. Like it's just
Okay.
not. But I feel like a lot of cities. I think Miami has changed a lot in that way. Also, that I
Yeah.
find there's more like supper clubs and
Yes.
lounges and like cute bars. It's not so much about popping bottles and throwing ones in the air, which I have no problem with. I've done many times. But I just like to go to like a really long dinner, have some wine,
Yes.
maybe a cocktail afterwards, and then, call it a night. So I'll do that. I love to travel. I'm a big traveler. So we don't go anywhere during football season because that's
Too
our
much.
high season. But once the season's over, I usually get away for a couple trips and then finish basketball season out and then travel a lot during the summer. But I really love to travel.
Do you have a favorite spot you've been?
So last summer I did Spain and Morocco.
Oh, amazing.
And Spain was incredible. We did Barcelona and Madrid, and we did Casablanca and Marrakesh.
So nice.
And yeah, it was a pretty amazing trip. Marrakesh was pretty amazing. It's not the easiest place to get to, but it is so worth it. Especially, I really love completely like getting into a culture. And Casablanca was amazing, but like still, the water and everything. Marrakesh is in the desert. We like rode camels
So
and
cool.
stayed in this insane hotel. Do you watch Inventing Anna? Did you watch that show?
Oh, yeah.
The hotel.
Yes.
I didn't see it, but everyone tells me that's the hotel. The La
No
Mamounia.
way. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it was
you feel like
unreal.
had a great trip then. You
Yeah,
should watch that show.
it was incredible. Yeah, and then I'm doing London and Dublin, in the
Fun.
spring, and going to South Africa this year also, so
Okay, that's a bucket list trip for me.
yeah.
One of my coworkers just got back from South Africa, and I really wanna do that. Do you have, like, a trip you haven't booked yet, but that you, like, really wanna go on?
I do wanna get to Asia. I haven't gotten to Asia yet, so now since I'm on the West Coast, it's a little easier
Yeah.
than the whole, like,
Tokyo.
20-hour flight, so I'm gonna try to get to Tokyo this summer also before the football season starts. We'll see if we can sneak it in, but yeah, I definitely wanna get to Asia also.
What else is on your 2023 bucket list, just in general?
Um, I have some projects that I'm working on that I'm excited about. Not ready to share yet, but that I'm working
A
on.
good
I think
teaser,
yeah, I
something
think
like
for
a
this
real
year, every year at the
movie.
beginning of the year, I don't do a New Year's resolution because I never keep them,
Yeah.
but I do try to set an intention. I pick an intention word for the year to just kind of revisit as a goal, but also just something that I want to refine in myself and apply to what I'm doing. So last year I didn't do so great with it, but I it was discipline. And
Mhm.
this year it's intention. So I really want to be more intentional with my time, more intentional with, social media, more intentional with business and with relationships, and just, really give time to things. One of the things that I definitely took out of the pandemic was all of the rushing around and things that we do, and the busy stuff that just kind of went away after all of that. And I feel like that's starting to pick up again. And I really want to remember to enjoy things. It's really easy to gloss over accomplishments and gloss over moments, and just kind of you're just kind of going, and you don't take a
Mhm.
beat to be like, oh, this is what I'm doing now is pretty cool, and what I'm doing here is pretty amazing, and these people in this moment is pretty special, and we're never going to be here again. So let's just, kind of breathe it in, not on some, like, anything extra, but s- I'll look back on things. I'm like, I don't even have like a real memory of that because it was
Yeah.
all just going so fast. So I really want to be more intentional this year about those things.
I love that. That's such good. You've sprinkled in a lot of really good advice throughout this whole show, but do you have a best piece of advice you've ever gotten or a piece of advice you offer?
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten, it is the most important piece of advice that I've ever gotten, because I was at a very bad place in my career and personally, and I was just kind of spiraling, trying to, just latch on to anything solid. And I was being kind of a little brat and just complaining a lot and really being a victim. And a very successful friend of mine was listening to me complain, and he was like, just stop talking for a second. What is something that you want for yourself in the next 2 to 3 years? It can be anything. Can be a car, it can be a man, it can be a job, which just something that you want for yourself. And I was like, well, I want to be full time on air, like with my own show in the next 2 to 3 years, whether it's radio or television. And this was before I had the radio show. This was before I even actually got my part-time job at the radio station. And he was like, "Okay, great. That's a great goal. It's like it's a great thought, something that you want. How much of your energy are you putting towards making that happen?" And I was like, "I don't know, like maybe 10%. Like I don't have a job. I'm sleeping on my friend's couch. I am fighting with my family. Like I just got out of this awful relationship. Like just like da 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 da. I don't know. I'm not really like thinking about how to make that happen right now." And he was like, "Well, why are you surprised that it's not happening? 10% is not a lot. It's barely anything at all." And I don't know if it was because everything that was happening, or I was just like at that point in life, or it was just, but it was my light bulb moment. And I was like, that's actually a very good point. I really don't, I'm not applying anything or any effort or any time or any energy at all towards any of my real goals. I'm just kind of swimming around treading water right now. And why would that come to me? So it's just like anything else in life. If you want to get in shape, we all know you have to work out and eat good. We all try to get around it, but that's just the only way. You got to do it. And if you want to learn a new language, you have to study and you have to speak it, and you got to do it every day. And you've got to try, and you're going to fail a little bit, and then you got to go back and learn it again. And then you have to apply yourself. You have to put your energy into making it happen. If you want to graduate college, if you want to, raise a family, anything that you want to do with your life, you have to put your energy into it. And energy is a specific word because it's not just, okay, I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to talk about it, or occasionally I'm going to jump on the treadmill. Energy is a mentality. It is a embodiment of what you want. So when people say like, oh, you attract what you put out, like things come to you as you desire them, as you put out. Watch what you say, watch how you think, watch what you do with your time, because that's what you're directing yourself towards. So all there's all these different like quotes and stories and stickers to apply to a really simple concept that if you want something, put your energy towards making it happen. And it might not happen on your timeline, but it will eventually happen because that's what you're working towards. That's what you're giving out to the universe. So it's it's always been something that I've kept with me, and anytime I feel like I'm kind of wandering, or I'm, frustrated that something's not happening for me, I revisit that conversation because it's the truth. And anytime that I have put 100% of my energy into something happening, it happens. It's not, life is not a vending machine, but it's just the concept of the world. Like, this is how it works. If you want to save up for something and you are intentional about doing extra work and saving your money, and your energy is not towards spending that money on partying or going out, like, you are, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. Energy is very important, and using energy in a slothful way, or just not being intentional about your
Absolutely.
energy, will take away from the things that you want. And it's not that easy. It's not just a switch that you flip, but it is something that only you can control. So that was the most important piece of advice. I'm sure I've gotten better advice that I ignored, but I listened to that advice and it came to me at the right time, in the right moment. And I think it's I think it's important for everybody, in whatever, part of your journey or your experiences are, to own your own role in your story, because it's very easy to get distracted by people that hurt you, or people that stand in your way or discourage you, or bad things happening. And it can really drown you if you focus on it too much. So it's a perseverance mindset that will really steer you in the right direction every time you revisit. At least it has for me.
Yeah, that's so good. Do you remember, like, when you got that advice, just you said it's not immediate, but like in that moment, did you change something, or were you just like, I gotta like
Yeah, I got after it the next
pivot?
day.
You
I
got
got I
what?
got I got after it the next day. I
Yeah,
got my life together the next day. It didn't come together the next day, but I was
yeah.
like, "Okay, we're done.
We're doing
We're
something. Yeah,
done with the whole pity party thing."
yeah,
I don't like to sit in what's happening for too long, I grew up in an abusive household, so there were so many things as a young person that were outside of my control, that I just developed a coping mentality that, when I had the ability to control things, that I would. And that doesn't mean anything. You're still things are going to happen to you. But I think for me, my way of dealing with it is, to take my time to be sad, and take my time to mourn, or deal with grief, or deal with the pain, or, trauma, or whatever it is. And then I try to apply what I've learned. And, I failed many times, and I'm sure I will again. But I I don't want to, So I think that has what's really helped me and my journey, is wanting to, or at least trying to, learn from every experience, if that makes sense.
and that was kind of the spark plug for your foundation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a big part of my career. I like to live, I guess. I'm trying to experience everything. And sometimes there's bad experiences. And that's what it is. But being able to, give back, be a mentor, whether it's the foundation or whether it's, working with other women or, you know, needing help myself from those women from, at times is really important because we all need help.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many like good nuggets. I feel like I could just like keep picking your brain all night, but I know you've had all day doing stuff, and there's so many things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I haven't asked you. Um, but I've touched on everything. Where can everyone find you and keep up with all things Joy Taylor?
You can follow me on social media at Joy Taylor Talks, and it's the same across all the platforms. And the show is weekdays on FS1 from 4:30 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be at the Super Bowl this year if you guys are in Arizona, so you can come by and be a guest in the
Fun.
audience if you're in Arizona. And yeah, just follow me and I'll keep you updated.
Who's your Super Bowl pick?
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I think I'm gonna wait until the championship weekends because there's
Okay.
still so much that could happen this weekend. But I do think we're very lucky with the teams and the talent that's left in this divisional round. We're gonna have a great Super Bowl no matter who comes out of it, which is not always the case. There's
No,
usually
that's
a
true.
couple teams where we're like, oh, that one
That's
might not be that exciting. But I think we're gonna get a great matchup this year.
That's true. It's cool that you get to go. That's definitely an awesome gig, and I know you don't take it for granted. So um, that's really cool. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight, your advice, your all of the little nuggets we learned about your day to day. I find so fascinating. I hope everyone else does too. And thank you just for being a part of Scoop du Jour. It's been a blast having you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Joy. Thank you so much. This was a blast having you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.